Focus then to Motown, given that February sales just trickled in yesterday. Let's bring on board Shashank Srivastava from Maruti Suzuki India to talk about how their month gone by was. Shashank, great to have you on the show. Just wanted to understand, Shashank, with supply disruption issue because of Russia and Ukraine now in place, how exactly do you see this impacting the auto industry and in particular, of course, Maruti?
So far, actually, there is no there seems to be no immediate impact of the conflict. We are still assessing, and I think it would depend on how long this conflict lasts. So there are, of course, no direct impact, it appears, at the moment for us. We could see indirect impact because we are not just talking about chip supply or market disruption, but also fuel prices and such things which also impact the overall industry.
What about the semiconductor chip shortage? Is the issue behind us? Is it close to resolution, or are things status quo?
So, as I have been saying that, the chip shortage, the situation seems to be getting better over the last few months. If you look at our September production was just 40% of our plan. October was 60%, November was 83, 84%, December was 90%, January was 92, 93%. February also was very good. So I think overall there seems to have been an improvement in the situation. But I can, of course, tell you that, and we have confirmed that it will not be 100% even by the end of this year. So 100% exactly when it will become normal is a little difficult at this time to predict because of the complex supply chain that is involved. And it is not just Maruti Suzuki in India, but also all OEMs across the globe which have been affected in this process.
Good morning, this is Nayantara. So while you've seen record exports in February, we have seen passenger vehicle sales in the month of February come down 7%. It could be a whole host of issues, but there's now conversation happening about demand being impacted. But the truth is, there is inflation. How are you going to balance that? Will there be price hikes in the offing?
So as far as material cost is concerned, you know that it's a in any auto OEM. A large portion of our cost structure, in fact, about 75-77% of the cost structure is material cost. And therefore, any changes in the commodity prices obviously affects the cost structure adversely. That's what has happened in the last 1.5 years. And that is the reason why you've seen all OEMs increasing their prices roughly in the range of 8 to 10% in the last 1.5 years. This is not sufficient to cover the entire commodity price increases because the commodity price increases have been pretty large. And yes, you are right. There was a hope that it would come down, and probably because of the conflict, this has been an issue at the moment. But what we need to look at is the long term, how long the conflict lasts, or what will be the long term impact. Certainly, we are watching the situation very carefully and monitoring both its effect on the top line as well as the bottom line.
So, from what you're telling me, then, does it mean that the company Maruti will not be increasing prices? Is that what you're saying?
So that's what I'm trying to tell you, that it's difficult to say that exactly because it's not as if the company at a particular point of time starts examining the situation. Let's see if we have to do a price hike or no, because it's a continuous process and we continuously make those assessments. I keep saying that we walk that very fine line between top line and bottom line. So we cannot compromise on the top line, the volume part, by increasing the prices as much as the cost increases. On the other hand, you cannot only look at the top line. You must look at the bottom line as well. So it's a continuous process, and we will be continuously monitoring and taking a decision at the appropriate time.
The sales expectations, in the coming months, what's the outlook here? Because we are seeing the fuel price surge, which seems rather inevitable. So what's your expectations?
On the demand side, if you look at this financial year, probably we'll end this financial year in the industry with about 3 million plus vehicles, which is only the fourth time ever. So in that sense, with the semiconductor shortage that we have seen in this year, 3 million plus seems to be a good number. In fact, I think the industry should end up with about a 15% growth or 14 to 15% growth over last year. But remember, last year and the year before that were smaller years, and we are still way off the numbers which we saw in the peak year of 18-19. So with respect to that, we are probably about 13-14%, will probably be 13-14% less. So the demand bounce back seems to have been strong despite the semiconductor shortage. It could have been much better if the availability was better. So there is an optimism. Economy is growing. Going forward, I think the projections for the industry next year seems to be in that range of 3.36 million to 3.52 million. That seems to be the SIAM consensus. So there is an optimism, but you are right. We have to be cautious because of the fuel hike scenario. That's a negative for the industry as the thumb rule. However, one positive thing is that we have a CNG option where the cost of running is impacted much less. The cost of running of a CNG vehicle is about a third of what is there in petrol and diesel, and therefore we do believe that while the fuel price increase is a negative for the industry in terms of the consumer sentiment because it affects the cost of ownership, but we do have an option of CNG, and we are hopeful that we still remain optimistic for the next year.
The semiconductor shortage, as well as some of these other challenges in terms of rising fuel prices, you continue to remain rather optimistic. Now, this fiscal exports as well are likely to double. So what's the road ahead, and which are some of the key geographies that are going to be the focus area?
I think that article which you're referring to talks about this fiscal year being double of the previous years, because this year exports being more than 200,000 is the highest exports that North has done ever in a fiscal year, largely in geographies of Latin America, Middle East and Southeast Asia, and Africa. So these are the four major geographies where we have done well in exports.
Sure. Shashank, have to ask you on the new Baleno from the last time that we spoke when you had 20,000 pre-bookings. How's it doing now?
So now it's crossed the 32,000 mark for the new Baleno, and the response seems to have been very good. We launched it just recently. I think last Wednesday we launched it, and across the country it has been appreciated very much for its tech features. And in any case, Baleno is a very strong brand. And it's always been in the top 5, and in February is also, by the way, it was the top 5 in the industry.
Shashank, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with us today. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the perspective coming in from Maruti.